The sequels of Friday the 13th are Mrs. Voorhees' Fantasy by Da Vinci, a 45 at the end of the first film. As Alice is charging at her Pam, Voorhees fantasizes that Jason would return and take revenge for her death. Continuing her mission, Jason's body had actually been recovered after he'd drowned and was buried. Croup secretly reads and loves Captain Underpants comics by Drink_039. From what I understand about hypnosis, you cannot hypnotize someone to act against their morals, nor can you make someone do something they would be completely unfamiliar with, not under trance. If you told someone to speak Spanish, they wouldn't, because they do not know how to. If you told them to act like Richard, but they do not know Richard, they will not act. Mr. Croup played Captain Underpants enthusiastically and accurately. He got the catchphrases right, the behavior right, the style right, and everything that was Captain Underpants. Did he gather this from glimpses of the comic books after confiscating them from George and Harold? Or does he secretly read the comics in private? Vampire movies likely vampirism is caused by a symbiotic bacterium, not a virus. By PM_me_purple_panties in movies like Blade and others that follow the same vampiric rules. Weakness to sunlight, garlic and silver. The vampiric infection is a bacterial one, not viral. The one thing that all three of the vampiric weaknesses have in common is that they are all antibiotics, whether it's the allicin found only in raw garlic, the silver ions that are released when silver makes contact with a fluid like a stab to the heart, which would disperse the ions throughout the bloodstream, or the UV radiation from the sun that burns bacterium out of existence. The method by which the bacteria alters the human body to induce fang growth is hard to come up with, but this is sci-fi we are talking about, so I feel like there's some wiggle room after the fang growth has occurred. The bloodlust follows. The bloodlust serves a dual purpose: transmission of the bacterium and satisfying a new deficiency the body has come down with the lack of sunlight and the increased metabolic function required to keep up with vampiric healing factors and strength. The bacterium takes over the role of transporting oxygen throughout the body and providing energy to muscle tissue. The drawback to this is that the bacterium feeds on red blood cells, meaning that to keep up their strength, the vampires must feed regularly on living humans, or they will begin to deteriorate as the infection cannibalizes its host. So that's about as much as I've thought into this theory. Bracket Scream Universe right. Square brackets is the ghost face costume. Grant supernatural abilities by Milo _the Scream Universe does the ghost face costume. Grant supernatural abilities by Milo _the The Scream series is a simple whodunit murder mystery horror with regular characters donning the mask and costume of Ghostface to go after Sidney Prescott and her friends. Now, while Ghostface Ghostface is simply a normal person in a costume. As revealed at the end of every movie, the Ghostface entity throughout the movie is capable of feats that are well beyond anything those human characters could be capable of. For example, Scream Billy and Stu incredible brute force and strength. They are able to life a 200-plus man on top of a news van with ease for a mere scare tactic, as well as completely eviscerate an able athletic teenager within seconds. Super speed and stealth. They are able to slip into any place undetected and escape without notice. Just as fast they gutted Casey Becker and strung her up a tree within minutes of her parents. Walking through the house, they stalked Sidney and Tatum in a tiny grocery store without notice. Scream to Mickey and Mrs. Loomis, impervious to damage and highly resilient, able to punch through a cop car window and throat slash a cop, survives a head-on car crash and is able to brush it off. Top-level precision slash omniscience, able to know where every victim is and goes stabs blindly through a bathroom stall right into a victim's head, hides inside a news van knowing their victim would head over to it unwillingly and without guidance, in which they are pulled in and killed, knows where a victim runs to even after running through multiple doors and hallways inside a giant college, ends up right next to them and simply stalks them to entice fear. Knows where a police escort is taking Sidney and knows where it's going to stop before attacking, knows where Sidney will end up and simply meets her there. Her college's stage. Scream 3 Roman access to impossible technology, a voice changer that can mimic any voice flawlessly, omnipresence. Even though Roman was working alone, he's able to know when a victim will use a lighter to activate the gas inside a big house, causing a massive explosion. Knows a victim will see a security guard's shadow, get spooked, and avoid the front entrance of a building and hide right in front of him for an easy kill. Is able to get Sidney's unlisted phone number, ability to fake death, can slow down his pulse to appear dead. Invulnerable to bullets or attacks slash highly resilient, takes many gunshots to the chest without much effect or lasting damage, able to take on a physical imposing bodyguard with ease. Scream 4 Jill and Charlie, advanced strength and speed. While simple being 295 lbs, 130 lbs teenagers, they are able to take down 2 seasoned police officers swiftly with insane ease and incredible efficiency, get inside houses and out just as quickly without anyone noticing, as well as isolating a group of victims one by one, killing one, incapacitating another, luring two into a basement, while one taunts them over a phone and the other ties themselves up to elicit psychological terror. Highly resilient, takes multiple punches and blows to the face and throw downstairs, able to brush off and escape with ease. So, while Ghostface is merely a regular human and most of the time simply a high school teenager, the Ghostface skill set is that of a trained Marine, incredibly stealthy to near ninja levels, highly skilled in hand-to-hand hand combat, killing a cop, leaping onto a cop car and kicking another cop in the head with ease and incredible agility, top-level strength with the ability to throat slash victims, cutting through muscle and tendons like paper at great speeds, incredibly fast with advanced levels of stealth, can hide anywhere and vanish without notice. So is Ghostface in of itself an entity or anomaly that can grant its where are all these traits even going as far to leave traces of its power, allowing its wearer even after removing the costume to take massive amounts of damage such as gunshots and stab wounds and still be able to keep coming back for one last scare? Or are all these regular people just highly trained killers?
Darko, we never see the primary universe until the end. I think the movie starts with Donnie waking on the golf course in the Tangent universe after being transported by a wormhole. Here he is targeted by bullies who blame him for everything, teachers and parents who do not understand him, and psychological problems that have only recently begun to manifest. Gretchen is darker and less innocent compared to her appearance and attire at the end of the film. Sheraton Chen constantly tells him to shut up, as he is ignoring his purpose and risking all with the destruction of the primary universe. In a commentary by the director, we find his medications are only placebo. Donnie awoke from the start immediately after the incident that created the Tangent universe, on or near the same place that he returned to redirect the artifact back to the primary universe. His sleepwalking was a new thing for the discussion with his friends. All of the signs in the film point to Donnie behaving abnormally compared to his usual weird self. Donnie returned to the primary universe along with the artifact only at the end of the movie, which is where we see a Gretchen wearing childish clothing speaking to a younger boy, showing her naivety instead of her maturity, as Donnie sees. Square bracket power corrupts, right square bracket Jeffrey, man, not infant, has power over Yahweh. In a really old video of Dark Matter 2525 prior to the creation of Power Corrupts, Jeffrey, infant, wagers with God, and if God loses, which he did, Jeffrey would replace him as supreme deity. Just a coincidental reinforcement of what I'm about to say. Throughout the series, we learn that Yahweh is controlling a simulation, but the NPCs are sentient, artificial, but with free will. Yahweh manages to hack into other technology, and he eventually takes over the world with a robot army. Then, Jeffrey, man, goes out of his way to free the NPCs, as it's implied that he's the only other human left in the real world, causing Yahweh to retreat back to ruling his simulation from Yahweh's grasp. Later, we see an elderly Jeffrey living in a world populated only by robots, where he is the leader. Yahweh is nowhere to be found, implied subdued. The robots no longer seem to be soldiers fighting for Yahweh, rather fighting among themselves over who Jeffrey is exactly. This all comes together in Dark Matter 2525's collab with Logic, where Yahweh, in his simulation avatar, naturally learns that he is not truly God, nor is he in control. I propose that, sometime after S1E9 but before S1E7, which takes place after Episode 9, to clarify, Jeffrey began moderating Yahweh's simulation. Obviously Yahweh still looks and acts like God, implying that his pawns have been replaced by non-sentient tried to do something that Jeffrey disagreed with, on the basis of principle, that is, since these NPCs don't matter, he would step in and take over Yale. How many times did Cartman win his fights with Wendy Testaberger in the modern South Park era by Michael_Whitaker? 1 point. Cartman versus Wendy, breast cancer show ever over Wendy giving a speech to the class about breast cancer only for Cartman to be dismissive about it. 2 point. Cartman versus Wendy, dances with Smurfs over Cartman winning the morning announcer job and speaking out against the student body president overturning South Park Elementary into a socialist school. 3 point. Cartman versus Wendy, the sissy over Cartman using the girls' bathroom, because Craig and Kyle hogged the men's restroom cubicles, causing Cartman to irritate Wendy and Red just by using it, leading to Cartman demanding a personal bathroom and granted by Mr. Garrison. This is one of the many times where Cartman has a feud with somebody other than his most hated rival Kyle Broflovsky, and so far, all of the Wendy/Cartman feuds almost always portrayed Wendy in a sympathetic light, while Cartman was portrayed as despised whenever he faces Wendy. Never once has there been an episode for a Cartman/Wendy feud match that portrayed Cartman as a fully fledged good guy with Wendy as the despised bad guy. Maybe Cartman can continue losing against the newly despised Wendy Testaberger, with also newly turned despised Stan Marsh and Kyle Broflovsky W/Sheila, Gerald, Mr. McGee, Craig, Tweek, Jimmy and Sharon only getting in Cartman's way. Maybe Cartman can win his final one-on-one match with Wendy fair and square to finally cap off the Cartman/Wendy feud that was brewing since Chefco's Nonners and breast cancer show ever, that allow villains Wendy, Stan, Kyle, Sheila, Gerald, Craig and Tweek to give him a post-match beatdown until the token, Butters, Lion, Randy, Clyde and Kenny come to Cartman's defense and rescue. Not without an epic token stare-down with Stan, while Beep has her own stare-down with Wendy. It's like a role reversal of the list, when Beep was portrayed as a villain for her Cartman-esque role on the episode, but only this time, with Wendy as the villain and with Beep as a hero. Lazy Town is communist propaganda. Lazy Town is communist propaganda. Let's start with the fact that Lazy Town is obviously supposed to represent the capitalist West in socioeconomic decline. Lazy Town is rife with all sorts of social ills: poverty, pollution, unproductivity, unemployment, etc., and is rapidly stagnating. Mayor Meansville is clearly supposed to represent the U.S. government, an iron-fisted organization dedicated to the preservation of capitalism in order to preserve its own power. Stingy is a painfully obvious metaphor for the entrenched bourgeoisie doing anything in their power to keep their money. Pixel, Ziggy, and Trixie are meant to represent the masses, too enthralled with the bread and circuses provided by Meansville's regime to see their own enslavement. Robbie Rotten represents Joseph McCarthy and the far right, dedicated completely to the prevention of the international revolution. Stephanie is supposed to represent allies of socialism, feminism, suffragism, self-determination, pacifism, etc., and could even be a veiled analog to Rosa Luxemburg. And finally, we get to Sportacus. Sportacus' name is obviously a reference to the Spartakusbund, the forerunner of the German Communist Party led by Karl Liebknecht, Rosa Luxemburg, and Claire Zetkin. Sportacus' mustache is obviously a reference to the mustaches of Leon Trotsky and Liebknecht. He descends from the sky, clear divine imagery to stimulate the people of Lazy Town into action. He gets them moving an analog of a planned economy, and Robbie Rotten opposes him and his socialism, causing a class war which Sportacus always wins. Is this all a coincidence? Or has Lazy Town been subliminally encouraging communism amongst our children all this time? I'll let you be the judge. DC Comics and Seinfeld. My wife and I are watching Seinfeld on Hulu. Just for fun, we came up with the idea it takes place in the DC Universe New 52. Jerry was saved by Superman as a child and wanted to be his sidekick. Still to this day he is obsessed with Superman. In one episode, George even says his entire world revolves around Superman. Kramer is an failed /ex-supervillain. He was in a fight and was hit on the head with a falling AC unit and suffered amnesia. Some of his old low-level henchmen / accomplices still hang around. Jerry knows this fact but takes it on himself to keep 1 billion off the streets. After finding out about this story, Superman invited Jerry to play a show at the Hall of Justice. Jerry still regularly plays here, and it's the unseen audience at the start of each episode. Newman was once Kramer's most loyal henchman. He can't do much to snap him back, because he knows the situation is too close to the lodge, but he still tries. Again, this is just for fun, but funny enough to share. Lost is Donnie Darko as a TV show. Has anyone else noticed the crapload of parallels between Donnie Darko and the show Lost? Both centrally involve plane crashes, time travel, and purgatory-like alternate dimensions. Donnie Darko has the days, hours, minutes, and seconds until the world ends. Lost has the numbers. Donnie Darko is set in 1988. The numbers from the radio station on the island have been repeating since 1988. In Lost, Ben Linus even makes a quip about time-traveling bunnies, clearly a reference to Donnie Darko. In Donnie Darko, everyone in Donnie's life is affected in their dreams by connection to the alternate version of themselves that existed in his tangent universe. In Lost, the characters enter the afterlife together and are united by their experiences on the island. Perhaps most importantly and profoundly, Donnie Darko and Lost both center around the philosophical debate between free will and predetermination. I've never heard of J.J. Abrams acknowledging a connection, but I highly suspect for these reasons that they basically wanted to take concepts from Donnie Darko and turn it into a serialized drama. The secret identity of V from V for Vendetta is revealed. He is Alex from Clockwork Orange. Months after Alex underwent the Ludovic torture program in Clockwork Orange, he went into hiding and later re-emerged as Vigilante V sometime later, whose goal is to bring down the very government that has wronged him, which he succeeded. Major clues. 1. Alex was a naturally gifted street fighter. Even before Ludovic, he was able to frequently dispatch and defeat violent street gangs and even took on all 3 of his own gangster buddies and won. This particular incident displayed Alex's unique tactical fighting skill in fighting multiple enemies, which is coincidentally nearly identical to how V fights. It was never explained why V was such a good fighter, but if you accept this theory, his mysterious fighting skills are explained. Too sharp intelligence and wit. Despite his violent tendencies, the movie demonstrated Alex was something of an intellectual genius. He spoke in cultured, oddly Shakespearean English on varied intellectual topics, exactly like V. 3. An early obsessive love for classical music, particularly Beethoven, exactly like V. 4. If I'm not wrong, V constantly mentions that the British government tortured him and ruined his life. This is a reference to the Ludovic program. 5. The physical build of Alex and V are nearly identical. 6. If V is Alex, it completes Alex's character arc. Z-Town takes place in the Mario universe, and Sportacus is a reformed Waluigi. This is one of those I don't actually think the creators intended this, but it fits theories. While the majority of Mario games and other media takes place in the Mushroom Kingdom, the series has traveled to other places with their own unique peoples, such as Isle Delfino or the Bean Kingdom. Lazy Town, from the children's show of the same name, is in a remote part of the Mario world. Most characters in the show are puppets. These are the native people of Lazy Town, like the Antifa to Isle Delfino. The main character, Stephanie, and the villain, Robbie Rotten, are played by human actors, Rip Stephen Carl Stephenson, because they are out-of-towners that are the same type of humanoid person as Mario, Luigi, Peach, etc. There is, of course, one other human-played character, the superhero Sportacus. Sportacus is a reformed Waluigi who has decided to use his powers for good. What's the evidence for this? Sportacus has a color scheme around the blue area of the spectrum, just like Waluigi. I mean, it's more navy blue instead of purple, but still, Waluigi was invented to give Wario a doubles partner for Mario Tennis. He's since been included in Mario Party and Mario Kart games, but his big show has always been the sports games. He even attacks with sports paraphernalia in Smash Brothers as an assist trophy. If Waluigi has powers, they are surely sports-themed, while not quite the same as Waluigi's mustache. Sportacus's tash does have its pencil-thin quality, while not quite the same as Waluigi's Italian inflection. Sportacus does have a European accent. Unlike most of the other characters on the show, this may not count, but flying around in an airship really seems like something Waluigi would do. Also, I feel like Robbie Rotten looks **STRAIGHT** out of an early 2000s Mario game. Powerpuff Girls 2016 is sequel to Powerpuff Girls 1998. It is same universe like original show. When you watch the reboot of Powerpuff Girls, you notice about episode on one part Professor drives them to school. They stop by old kindergarten. School is called Pokey Oaks. When they see their past of the place, you see bubbles on front of classroom. She is show her science experiments. Her science experiment is her pet, and something went wrong. Her science experiment, her pet grows tall and break kindergarten school rooftop. You know when I mean show is not reboot. It's a sequel to an original show universe. The same timeline go on Powerpuff Girls wiki. I read there said Dance Dance is prequel to PPG 2016. Another prequel, Dance Dance, is original PPG 1998. It all shows is continuing to anim PPG and Powerpuff Girls. The girls are teenagers in show and last episode of Powerpuff Girls 1998. The Powerpuff Girls are adults. This means all series of PPG universe. PPG 1998 is one sequel. PPG 2016 is two sequel. PPG Anim is three sequel. PPG last episode is four sequel. Those all Powerpuff Girls sequel. What you see here, I think we have to wait for Powerpuff Girls 5th sequel to come out in another 10 years. Thank you for reading this post. Disenchantment also is Bart Simpson in Afterlife. Somehow I believe Bart Simpson, after he died, landed in hell. But real hell would have been too fun for him, so he was sent in what would be a real hell for him. Namely, he would have been transformed into an elf and sent into an elf world where everything is happy and perfect. The fact that Elsa wants to escape this elf world and discover what real human life is and meet evil is a sign for me that it's Bart wanting to go back to his old life and find his old habits back. Lucy could then be the personification of the evil side of Thor that was taken away from him after he landed in his elf hell. Notice also how the outfit of Elsa, red t-shirt, blue shorts, is the same as Bart Simpson. Jumanji is a Dybbuk box. In Jewish folklore, a Dybbuk is a malevolent possessing spirit. The word Dybbuk itself means to cling. Dybbuk are supposed to especially hate children and do their worst to possess or kill them. But like most demons, the Dybbuk has a weakness for games and challenges. They are generally said to be trapped by a rabbi or holy person in a box or a cabinet called the Dybbuk box. My theory is that Jumanji itself is a very powerful Dybbuk trapped inside this box that manipulates children, its preferred prey, into challenging it. I mean, we only see the handful of kids that succeed in the game. How many failed and were consumed by the game? Like it changes form depending on the time and who's playing it. At the beginning of the first Jumanji film, the two brothers in the 1860s are burying the chest containing the game. But who knows if it was in the form of a board game at all when they hit it? And in the recent Jumanji sequel, it becomes a video game to draw in the 21st century cheek and his delinquent friends. And think of the name, Jumanji. It may sound like exotic gibberish, but think of this in French. Je m'intéresse means I will consume. What if Jumanji was originally Latin changed to satisfy Alan's desire for an adventure and a way to get out of his life? Johnny Test is Johnny Bravo's illegitimate son. Johnny Test has almost nothing in common with his sister's similar personality to Bravo. His mother's an overworked businesswoman and his dad a complete wreck, and there's little evidence there's still romance between them. Blonde hair, oh, and there's the fact that Johnny Bravo makes whip crack sounds whenever he flexes. Test's mom had some kind of fling with the ripped man-child. Johnny Bravo named his son after him. This is terrible, since the idea that I willingly formed inside my brain. BoJack Horseman, the character will kill himself. The show will keep on going. Evidence point one, the show's existential theme. The show's theme is in, albeit unjustly brief terms, that the world is a cold, indifferent place where our happiness is not guaranteed. How better to enforce the idea of it not existentially mattering than to have the main character die and his own show proceed, ignoring his death to Sarah Lynn. She described her own death. Then it happened exactly as she described it. Later in the series, BoJack shouts that there will be plenty of people around him when he kills himself in the heat of his semi-premature, or whatever you want to call it, Oscar nomination party. The show's not above allowing characters to predict their death. 3. Animal puns. The show loves to correlate species with behavior. Anyone heard of the expression about beating a dead horse? Arya Dark in Danny Phantom is Odin from Norse mythology. In the Danny Phantom TV movie Regenstorm, the villain is the king of the Ghost Zone, Pariah Dark, the towering one-eyed tyrant who commands legions of dead warriors and is universally feared. This causes a council of benevolent ghosts to trap him in a coffin to sleep forever, while his crown and ring, the sources of his great power, were entombed with him. So who do we know from world mythology that was the one-eyed god king of an otherworldly realm and commanded legions of those who died in battle? Odin. It wouldn't be the first time mythological figures have shown up in the show. Pandora, Argus, Pegasus, Hydra, Medusa, a Cyclops, and the Centaur all appear in an episode featuring the Box Ghost and a race of beings known as the Far Frozen, led by their one-handed leader Frostbite, are energy. Theory Bugs now eyes with the same Bugs Bunny from the first short. Bugs Bunny has been around forever, or has he? On the short, the Wobbit who came to supper 1942, Elmer Fudd is promised $2 million and his uncle's will, the only stipulation being not to harm any animals ever again, especially rabbits. Here we see Bugs take advantage of that by crashing with Mr. Fudd and basically making all of your current roommate nightmares seem like a cuddling. 3-year-old Sugar Crash Nap eventually Fudd's uncle passes and the telegram comes with his money. I don't want to spoil that Fudd manages to get rid of Bugs, but he then quickly gets another telegram, this time with the guise of Easter greetings. Out of the egg pops up at least dozens of rabbits, all saying "What's up, Doc?" and flubbing out that Bugs Bunny is no longer alive today. Instead, what we see now are the children of Bugs, who's to say that every Bugs episode is just a different child and not one Bugs Bunny. Friday the 13th, Jason's rampage in Manhattan is what finally got the attention of the FBI. In the first 7 films, well, except for the first and 5th, Jason run amok at Camp Crystal Lake, slaughtering teens left and right. There doesn't appear to be any national concern, and this goes on for years. Yet at the beginning of Jason Goes to Hell, the FBI has made Jason a top priority, luring him into a trap with a female agent and unloading a dozen agents, shooting him full of lead before blowing him up. What happened? Simple. Jason took Manhattan. The nation had largely ignored his previous murders, unrealistic given the high body count, but hey, it's fantasy, because they were all in out of the way, sparsely populated area in rural New Jersey. Just a sleepy summer camp, not on anyone's radar in Quantico. But in Part 8, Jason makes it to the big city, even brandishing a machete in Times Square. That gets noticed, and that's why the FBI finally got after him in Part 9. God isn't God in Bruce Almighty. He's the devil pretending to be God, because Bruce is in hell for being a giant dick. In the film, Bruce dies and meets God. God gives him a choice to do what he wants with his new powers, and he effectively uses his powers to mind rape people, perv on women, and try to force his girlfriend, who wants to forget he even exists, into loving him, essentially trying to rape her after giving up. God gives him a choice, essentially granting him a wish. What would you pray for? Bruce says feed the homeless and peace on earth, the correct answers, and God makes fun of him and says what? He really wants back his grace. The creepy of God, if you ask me. Bruce resists at first, but in the end, Bruce ends up back with Grace, a changed man for sure, but the last sign God Beelzebub puts up is about Armageddon. Bruce is living a hell on earth, the most clean Christian man living a total lie. I think it was a test and he failed. He tried to mess with free will and that was the one rule he wasn't supposed to break. Hope. That makes sense. I hope it's what the filmmakers intended too, because I'm still trying to get the concept of God advocating mind drape out of my head. Almighty God knows Bruce Nolan is Jim Carrey. In Bruce Almighty, Bruce is constantly fighting against the persona that he's adopted for television. He no longer wants to be the funny, lovable, non-serious guy. Bruce wants to be taken seriously. However, in the end of Bruce's road to redemption after wreaking havoc, he can live with being the light-hearted news correspondent for the sake of strangers. God then tells him that he has the divine touch to make people laugh, and God knew that when he made him. Around this time, God quotes Ace Ventura with his iconic "Alrighty then." It's not acknowledged by Bruce. Even then, God gives Bruce divine powers. There's only a few people who he gave it to, including Gandhi. Why would the small-time news correspondent get powers of God? This leads us to believe that God has heard Jim Carrey's real-life prayers and wants him to understand the hand he has been dealt. His purpose. This could be a parallel on a real-life situation Jim Carrey had to deal with. He had to live with not being taken seriously, get through numerous barriers to get some serious roles. Jim has to accept his fate as being a staple of comedic American entertainment. When this movie came out in 2003, Jim took roles like Eternal Sunshine and the number 23. And we all saw those interviews where Jim says he doesn't exist. Jim's typecasting still bothers him. You could say that perhaps Jim is still learning to deal with it. Like Jim's recent role, Kidding, which pulls both comedy and drama, well more drama than comedy. Scott Pilgrim versus the World. Scott doesn't have to fight Ramona's evil exes. He has to fight himself. Scott is fighting his own insecurities throughout his budding relationship with Ramona, as her maturity and intellect forced him to reflect on himself not being worthy to be with her. He is unemployed, unable to commit, unkempt, practically homeless, arrogant, selfish, and generally self-absorbed. SCV-STW is about one man's transformation and personal growth as he meets a woman that challenges him to become the man that he was meant to be. Each X represents a part of himself that Scott recognizes he needs to change. If he wants a chance with Ramona, his usual tricks don't seem to work on her. His Ramona song seems to fall flat. Let's break it down further. First, Scott fights him unexpectedly at their first show. He is openly arrogant. feels he deserves Ramona and her love. Scott fears he is not deserving of love and that he, too, would be left in the past when deemed no longer suitable to her needs, as when she explains the past with the sexist battle also represents Scott fears of being generic, a common hipster fear and theme in all of the X battles with Scott's insecurity, shown by the demon hipster chicks that all look alike in monotony of the use of number 1. For X1. Second represents Scott's insecurities with his physical looks. X2 is incredibly vapid and vain, doesn't have any definition to him aside from his fame and good looks. He even uses a group of generic stunt doubles that look like him to fight with him. Scott fears several things. He is not good looking enough. He isn't muscular or manly enough. He isn't a prime example of what a man is, and Wallace isn't to it. Scott must contend with the fear that Ramona may not be into him physically and that Scott doesn't take good care of his body. Brad makes too fat. Third is a better musician, better looking, better version of what Scott thinks he wants to be. He's even dating Scott's ex. He is so cool. Next to him you would look generic. He even makes Knives into a generic version of herself. When he punches the highlights out of her hair, he's also a fake and gets called out by the vegan police. Scott is insecure of his own skills as a bassist. When he learns Ramona has a thing for bassists, he's insecure he will be discovered as a fake, a loser with nothing to offer, and see above description of Scott, who also cheats on his girlfriends. He fears the hipster, arrogant, cool persona he puts on will be dropped and really is scared and weak, and has done so many bad things he thinks he got away with, but will eventually answer to. Fourth is the short-lived, sex-fueled, lesbian fling Ramona head with the gothic woman. We don't learn much about her because she is only a fling. Scott fears two things: that he will only be a generic, barely remembered fling in Ramona's life, and that he will not be good enough in bed to satisfy such a kinky woman's needs. That's why he is afraid to fight number 4, and Ramona fights through him, guiding his hands to do the deed. He doesn't want to touch her because he fears he won't perform well. It's only after some tips and instruction from Ramona that Scott is able to gain the courage to touch her, which makes her orgasm. I find it's noteworthy to point out this is also the middle point of the X battles, and Scott is starting to realize he could very well be just another generic X like them. He wears a 4.5 shirt and the next scene representing that. 5 and 6 are shown together because they are two generic, indistinguishable twin brothers that Ramona dated and cheated on both with. Scott is insecure of his own cheating on Ramona with knives and vice versa. It is noteworthy as both the twins and Knives are of Asian descent. Scott is starting to work through his shortcomings but now has to face the poor decisions he's made in life. Scott is insecure his own actions in past relationships will come back to haunt him. It's already damaged his reputation with friends and family and exes alike, and he already cheated on Ramona. He fears he will be lumped in with the cheaters and his entire identity will be tied to that mistake, only seen as such when there is always two sides to every story. Seventh and final is both the perfect boyfriend and Scott's potential future. As previously mentioned, Scott is unemployed, carless, practically homeless, unkempt, etc. While Seven is the exact opposite. He's got a nice car, a job, his own venue. He's well-groomed and has great hair. He also is just like Scott with the same taste in music and fight with the same, albeit longer weapon at his dick. He has a bigger dick, get it. Scott would be him if he continued to be arrogant and full of himself. Scott fears becoming him, but also fears failing to reach his level to be as well put together and successful as him. Scott is not equal to him and must battle him along with those past mistakes and future optimism alike, merging them to gain self-respect. Then he can fight Mega Scott, the absolute opposite version of himself, who, funny enough, is actually a nice guy, friendly, accepting, and open of others, the opposite of Scott. Scott realizes he needs to spend more time with this side of himself if he wants to grow, and they make plans to hang out. This is the first mature decision we see him make since the start of the film, followed by more mature approaches to his relationships. Thus, I propose it is not that Scott must fight Ramona's exes, or that the exes represent the 7 deadly sins. I propose that Scott is trying to grow and mature in the film so he can have a chance to date Ramona, a woman, not a high schooler. Scott challenges his own insecurities within his relationship through learning of Ramona's past dating history and what it brings up for him. Monster first, the final cave painting. In Kong, Skull Island, there is an after-credits scene wherein Houston Brooks shows a sliddish out of cave paintings to Conrad and Weaver. Each of these paintings depicts a king, otherwise known as Titans. The final slide is particularly interesting as it shows Godzilla and Monster Zero, otherwise known as Ghidorah, locked in turmoil. The question is, where did they find it? If you've checked the Monarch Sciences Godzilla Tracker website, you know that one of the myths that lead Monarch to Ghidorah's icy womb was that of the rainbow serpent, an aboriginal legend detailing a sort of godly serpent that crafted the earth. connected to Ghidorah. He's a destroyer of worlds, not a creator of them. However, a closer look at the mythology reveals that the connection is actually pretty precise. The rainbow serpent is known to create thunderstorms when angry, an ability we know Ghidorah possesses. To quote his Crimson level classified information, muscle tendons on the wings are so hypertensile that their massive aerodynamics could generate hurricane force winds when in flight. Coupled with its body's electroreceptor molecular biology capable of conducting electrical currents, water vapor in the air would be heated at extreme levels, creating its own localized storm system as it travels. Quote, on top of this, one of the traits that the original shower Ghidorah had was a furry mane around the neck, according to Wikipedia. One of the main inspirations for the rainbow serpent, a genus called Wanambi, had fur and hair around its face and neck. This leads me to believe that Ghidorah's main territory was Australia, and I believe this is where the battle depicted in Kong Skull Island's final shot takes place. This also makes sense considering where Ghidorah rests now, in Antarctica. Australia is one of the closest landmasses to the Antarctic, so it would be logical to assume that after the battle in Australia, Ghidorah either retreated there and somehow got caught in the ice, or was chased/lured there by Godzilla and buried within. It also serves to mention that, on the Godzilla tracker, there is a monarch outpost in the middle of Australia. While this could be the site of another Titan, I find it very likely that this is where Monarch is studying the cave paintings of Ghidorah. The Flintstones bedrock is a cargo cult. While at first glance it might appear that the people of Bedrock are simply a tribe of particularly clever cavemen who managed to engineer functional analogs of modern conveniences using primarily carved stone and trained animals. Closer examination reveals that many of these devices do not actually serve any functional purpose. The most readily apparent is Fred Flintstone's iconic car. While a modern automobile is the very epitome of a labor-saving device, allowing one to travel great distances at great speed while exerting minimal physical effort, Fred's car has no source of propulsion other than his own 2 feet, and using it would realistically require a tremendous amount of effort on the driver's part, requiring his leg muscles to carry not only his own weight but that of his entire family as well as a small dinosaur and a 4-meter-long monolithic stone contraption, greatly limiting the distance and speed one could travel to less than what they could have been if they just walked. Precisely the opposite of a labor-saving device. This is made even more absurd when the Flintstones take their car to a crude recreation of a gas station, where an attendant fills her up with via the trunks of small mammoths stuck through stone cutouts of gas pumps. The liquid could not possibly be gasoline, because the people of Bedrock do not possess the infrastructure to drill for, refine, and distribute gasoline, because the mammoths would be unable to inhale it into their trunks without poisoning themselves, and most importantly, because cars in Bedrock do not have engines and do not use fuel. The more you look at it, the more it becomes clear that the inventions and ways of life of the people of Bedrock have less to do with replicating the practical functions of modern technologies and more to do with replicating these technologies' physical appearance and the way people appear to interact with them. The Flintstones and Rubbles possessed televisions that could not possibly have functioned as anything but odd-looking furniture, but nonetheless made them the focal points of their living rooms and spent hours watching them. Reporters showed up to the scenes of major events with crude stone effigies of cameras and microphones to make useless reports that would never be recorded or broadcast. Calls to mind a similar phenomenon that occurred in the waning days of World War II to aid in the war on the Pacific Front. Allied forces built airfields on the Melanesian islands, often quite near to the villages of those islands' original inhabitants, but never bothered to explain to the islanders what an airfield or an airplane or any of the related devices or activities actually was, leaving them to witness a Byzantine routine of military procedure, patrols, air traffic control, comms, refueling, and any number of other activities common on military bases without any prior context in which to interpret them, as well as observing that ever since the bases were built, strange flying things would periodically arrive carrying large shipments of food and supplies. When the war ended, the airfields were dismantled and the Allied armies packed up and left, but the natives painstakingly reconstructed the facility out of the materials available to them and devoutly acted out the activities of the personnel mock guards, keeping a lookout through non-functioning binoculars, mock air traffic controlmen reciting strings of radio codes whose actual meanings were totally alien to them, to radios that could neither hear, transmit, nor respond, mock ground crews refueling effigies of airplanes that would never fly with non-existent fuel in the hopes that, if they completed these rituals close enough to the way the Allies had, airplanes would once again come with gifts of food and supplies from the heavens without ever understanding the logic behind these activities or what they were actually supposed to accomplish. Similarly, the people of Bedrock dedicate an extraordinary amount of time and energy to acting out the daily activities of people living in a modern, early 1960s American suburb that were shown to them, undoubtedly by the seam seemingly omnipotent trickster entity known as the Great Gazoo, but for which they had no cultural context with which to interpret the logic or purpose behind much of it. All they could see was what the people of this strange future did all day, what the objects they interacted with on a regular basis looked like, and how unbelievably prosperous they all seemed from a Stone Age perspective, and they hoped that by replicating the strange rituals of these people, they might attain the same level of prosperity. This is a rough guide to how the old man manipulated virtually every event in the first RoboCop movie and set the stage for the second. He silently worsens the governmental crisis, controls the actions of Ed 209, manipulates public sentiment, plays Dick Jones like a fiddle, and even makes a satanic blood sacrifice that nobody notices. In this movie, there are no coincidences. In this movie, Detroit is supposed to basically be a war zone, and RoboCop is the first assault wave when a really bad situation arises. A main theme of the movie is a looming police strike, since so many of them become casualties, and RoboCop is the perfect solution, but it goes deeper than that. So deep, in fact, it would make Eddie Bravo and Alex Jones cream their tinfoil pans. When RoboCop is en route to a call, he probably radios back to dispatch a code number, meaning he's going to go and fuck everyone up, and dispatch has to call ambulances and fire crews as well as backup police. When they arrive, it's a mass casualty situation, but the threat is over. Or, if it's a coordinated assault like a SWAT team, they'd obviously send RoboCop first through the door. There's still plenty of work for first responders to do, and fewer of them are hurt in the line of duty. Everyone wins. The military-grade weapon with the sympathetic, familiar face of the hero cop from the new OCP, cheaply stapled on to give the impression things in the city are calm enough for regular police and there's no need for martial law. That's another difference that gives RoboCop the edge over Ed 209. The face makes him less threatening when in reality he's a tank with just enough human empathy to keep him from becoming a wanton killing machine. Now that the old man has completed his unstoppable enforcer, he can enter the next phase of the plan. Because they don't own the army, OCP profits will suffer if the police take a secondary role. They have to promote the image that local government is still functioning and to not risk federal intervention. Even though we see a city councilman flip out on live TV, he is arrested and order is restored. What was he mad about, they recount? OCP probably runs the mayor's office in elections, too, since they appear to be the only business larger than a grocery store in the entire city and have the speaking fees to get city too. It keeps people deluded into believing things are better than they are and that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. So citizens again don't pressure for martial law, even though gangs are running amok in the streets with anti-tank rifles. Something like martial law would negatively affect property values, which is something people still care about since it's referenced in the film when Murphy goes to his old house. Private property is so tied to the American dream. I bet people of Detroit had a lot of hopes for Delta City to be a success. It seems to be the only thing of substance people have anymore. Who in their right mind would run a liquor store at night in downtown Detroit if there are nightly machine gun battles inside the store? If people are willing to endure that, it only magnifies what hope they must have for Delta City, which now makes the joke even more cruel. The timing of Delta City being canceled, there's no hope. Nobody will save us now, darkest hour, and the high-profile politician having a psychotic episode on live TV at the exact moment Octave used their new enforcer to take him down is too coincidental, given the movie's commercial overtones. Those simultaneous events were actually a deliberate message by the old man that he is in control. The old man is 2 steps ahead of everybody while maintaining a nice guy persona. Machiavelli would be proud of him. Oh, I'm old and out of the loop. Show me this new idea you have, Richard. Who can believe that? It was the old man's plan from the beginning. You don't last in that city unless you're ruthless, and he's 100 years old. The fact OCP has so much life extension technology on hand is curious to say the least. His final line of the movie, "What's your name, son?" is rhetorical and has a different meaning. Since he was secretly overseeing, guiding, fathering the Robocop project, the old man had to be notified that an Officer Murphy was mortally wounded and therefore a perfect candidate. The Robocop suit required such a specific type of human component for it to work, a brain in the Goldilocks zone of damage, not too bad but still beyond repair, that we must have loomed over the selection process. They already had the arms, legs, interface, etc. for Robocop already built in the final phase. They just needed the right type of biological material to come by. It is unlikely they started building Robocop after Murphy was injured, unless maybe they cryogenically freeze people/brains until they were needed. It's horrifying to think OCP confiscates their officers' remains and freezes them for experimental zombie projects, but that's literally the plot of the movie. In any case, the R&D for the Robocop program had to go much farther back in time than the events of the movie say, which is an indicator of the depth of the old man. conspiracy. He barely reacts when Ed 209 annihilates a board member in the middle of the office, which is another indication he knows more than he lets on. In fact, the Ed 209 malfunction was no accident. It was a deliberate message on the part of the old man that he is initiating the takeover. Random Stooge was shot to pieces, blood sacrifice on top of the model of Delta City, telling us OCP is terminating the plan for a better tomorrow and the war machines are here to stay and control things. If Detroit rises to prosperity, there's no need for an OCP anymore. The plug had to be pulled in order to make everyone lose hope. It was artificial anyway, and turned to the solution OCP conveniently provides. The officer we hear of but never see in the beginning, Franklin, was probably tapped to be Robocop first but died, or is possibly inside Ed 209 but so brain damaged he can't be controlled. Or, as I believe, he is an Ed 209 but his brain damage makes him nothing but base instinct and therefore easier to control, which the old man did from controls under his desk, or possibly a key fob type device. While dangerous and effective, the Ed 209 Franklin lacks the programming capacity to operate independently. Robocop puts the monstrosity out of its misery, getting rid of a potential tied to the old man. Nobody's going to volunteer to be Robocop, so being injured in the line of duty is the only way for OCP to get control of human remains. His salary won't cover the bill, so he's corporate property now. That way they don't have to deal with hospitals, families, or stealing from them more. This is why in Robocop 2, Murphy's wife is only concerned with her personal interactions with Robocop. If the ability was available to her, she'd be suing OCP and it would be a major scandal. So the fact people have no recourse then to deal with it when a company fucks you over is another layer of the corporate dystopia of this universe. The point being, why would the sweet old man sign off on such inhumane business tactics? He was either unaware or not as sweet as he lets on, but given the rest of the movie it is highly doubtful he is not in total control. If he were weak, the company would fall apart in such a cutthroat world. Let Dick Jones have his fun, giving him enough rope to hang himself so he could later lay the blame on him. When the time was right, Jones and everyone associated with him were killed within minutes. Murdered by the very instrument the old man conceptualized, and his unassuming partner making Murphy Darth Vader to the old man's Palpatine of sorts. Dick, you're fired is suspiciously quick thinking in a hostage situation. He knew Robocop's programming inside and out, and knew exactly how to trigger his checkmate move. The old man set it all up to make himself look like the victim and said the magic words to get Robocop to kill Jones in front of everyone. Perfect alibi. No loose ends. And since Robocop is a Christ figure died resurrected and crowned king on Christmas, the fact the old man calls him son means he's project leader / God / possibly Satan in the story. When Murphy smiles and leaves at the end of the movie, it is actually when fascism comes to America, it will be wrapped in the flag and carrying a cross moment. He is merely a tool of the company. He's not built to end crime, just to maintain OCP's control over the crisis. Although they did not create it, they are the monopoly that controls it. Robocop is a red herring distracting from the main goal of OCP, a silent coup of a major city. He's so under the radar his character doesn't even have a name. That's as evil genius as it gets. Kaiser Soze is an amateur compared to this guy. The bad guy wins in this one, big time. Central plot spoilers ahead, depending on if you've seen more than a commercial for it. We don't specifically see it, but I think from the start of the day everything is controlled to get to the final outcome. The virgin's boyfriend breaks up with her via email. The jester notes the people in this town drive in a very counterintuitive fashion. The jock jumps out into traffic to catch a ball. And instead of getting flattened, the guy slams on his brakes in time and seems not at all perturbed by this kid throwing himself into traffic. I think right from the start of the day, everyone around them has been in on it and manipulating the day, like they're all on the Truman Show, except everyone around them is watching them and making sure they get to the cabin safely. There were probably multiple groups of kids set to go to the cottage in case any one kid got killed or injured or otherwise invalidated the group. The rest of the groups probably had their cousin call up at the last second and tell them the cabin unfortunately burned down so they can't go or whatever.